Hey, what is going on, First 15, and welcome to just another time where we just get to hang out and be together, and most importantly, get to start the day off in prayer. It is super bright where I'm filming today, so if it looks like I'm squinting, I apologize, but the sun is absolutely blinding right now. And just excited to be able to hang out with you guys today. And today we're going to be just looking at two verses. We're going to be hanging out in James chapter 1, and we're going to be looking at verse 19 and 20. And here's what it says. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. So today, I want to talk about these verses, and there's a statement that I just kind of want to lay out and let this kind of be the statement for us. You know, arguing is a big thing. Always it's a big thing, but it really feels like a big thing now. Hang out on the social media world, and with all the things happening with the season of life we've been in, and with the elections coming up, and there's just issues that we're talking about. There's politics that we feel passionate about, and even just this whole thing with COVID that we feel passionate about. And so, you know, as we get opinionated, arguments start to form. And you know, how do you have arguments? How do you work through those things with each other? And I think that there's two options. I think you can try to win the argument, or I think you can try to win the relationship. And I believe James is talking about some things to help us win relationships. And so whether you're having some issues with people you're hanging out with at work, whether it's people that you live with or people that you're sharing the social media space, I believe James has some good truth. And the first thing that James says is this: everyone should be quick to listen. Now, I don't know why we always seem to have a struggle with this. I definitely do. I am a talker. I am a fixer. I am somebody that when something happens, I want to just figure it out right now. I don't want to go a minute, let alone an hour or a day without solving something. And a lot of times the way I try to fix a problem is to talk it out, and which inevitably, depending on who I'm talking to, might just result in me talking over somebody and trying to talk them into what I think and what I believe. And so I love the fact that James says we got to be quick to listen. I think that's the first step in winning the relationships that we have, is that we got to realize that the things that we're going through, there's somebody else involved. And they have very real feelings. And just because their feelings aren't my feelings, it doesn't mean that those feelings aren't real, and they're not warranted, and they're not to be heard. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the statement that perception is reality. It's very true for people. So the way that people perceive life, the way that people perceive what's happening, that's their reality, and that's their truth right now. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but I just sometimes throw that aside, and I just think, well, you know, that's not the right way to look at things. And so why should I even acknowledge that that's an option right now when this is clearly the path? And it just completely takes the conversation out. And there's got to be a way to get there in our relationships, right? How do we get from A to B? Well, a really good way to start is we listen. We just hit the pause button and we slow down the talking and we open up our ears to hear. And that's what I love about Jesus and the Gospels. Jesus spent a lot of time listening to people, hearing their hearts, figuring out where they were coming from, because everybody has come from somewhere. Everybody's got a story, and that story is worth being heard. And so as we start off today's prayer time about how do we win relationships, I just want to encourage you to pray this prayer with me. Jesus, today I ask that you would open my heart and my ears faster than I open my mouth. Allow me to see people today the way that you do. Help me to understand that everyone has a story, and their story is worth listening to. So then the second thing that James says is that after we are quick to listen, we should be slow to speak. So we just really need to do a better job of thinking about what we're about to say out of our mouths. And the thing that has hurt that so much is just this world we live in, where you can shoot a text, send a post, type up a post, and send it and be done with it. And once you throw those words out there, you can't get those words back. And I think we just need to be really cautious of how we use our words, and we need to understand that our words have value. I had a friend that I worked with, and he said that words were like money. Some people because they just say anything and everything that they want. Their words are like pennies. But there are other people who are very selective and cautious of their words, and they're like $100 bills. I don't know about you, but I want my words to have value, especially ultimately because of who I reflect in my life. I reflect a lot of things. I reflect my family, I reflect my friends, I reflect my church, but most importantly, I reflect my Savior, Jesus. And so after I've spent time listening to somebody, the best way to work on the path to winning the relationship is to make sure that what I say next is first and foremost a reflection of Jesus, that it's full of grace and mercy, even when I'm dealing with somebody that's irrational, even when I'm dealing with somebody whose thought process and words and reaction doesn't really make sense. Just because somebody's acting a certain way, it doesn't mean that I have to act that way. And so I love the fact that James says, man, we got to be slow to speak. We got to think about what we're going to say, and ultimately, does those words reflect the heart of Jesus? And so as we enter into our second part of prayer, I just would invite you to pray this prayer with me. Jesus, speak for me today. Use the air that is coming out of my lungs, which produces powerful words, to be words that are used for encouragement, support, and love. When I speak, let it draw the ears of others to your heart. And then James is going to wrap up these two verses by saying this: we should be slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. There's a statement that we say to students all the time on floor one, and that's this: hurt people hurt people. When people act a certain way, it's because there was something that got them there. Now, in our household, we've got 4 kids, and they're all very young. And I can tell you that kids are very innocent, they're very loving. Every once in a while, you'll have a kid, act out because they're frustrated and angry, but for the most part, my kids are pure. They don't know anything of the brokenness of this world. They really don't, but one day they will. And so how do sweet kids become hurtful adults that hurt other adults? Well, there's things that happen. There's things that happen to us. And so sometimes it's really easy when we're not quick to listen and we're not slow to speak, when we flip it, when we're quick to speak and we're slow to listen, it's easy for us to see somebody's post or to hear a comment somebody says at work, or to pick up something that's happening in our family and just to blow up and go crazy and think, well, why would you say that? And why would you think that? And why would you react like that? And what we got to understand is there's a reason for the way that people do things, and there's a story, and we got to learn that story. Again, I want to go back to Jesus. So many of things that Jesus did that had such an impact, and the reason why so many people were drawn to Jesus was because Jesus took time to hear people's stories. He took time to understand them, to know them, and in the end, what we get, not just the way with Jesus loved people, but what we get from being the kind of people who are slow to become angry is that we can hit the pause button and we can empathize with people. We can try to put ourselves in their situation. And even though we know that in almost every situation, because there's only one person that can truly change hearts and lives, and that's Jesus, even though we can't change people, we can take a moment and maybe we could be the catalyst for some change that could happen in them. Maybe we can be the seed or the influence or the exposure that could get them to Jesus. And so when they come to Jesus, it's going to be the Holy Spirit and it's going to be Jesus that changes their hearts, but we got to play a part in bringing that there. And one of the best ways to do that, one of the best ways to win the relationship and not win the argument, is to become slow to anger. Realizing that anger that we produce in ourselves, that hurts and brings pain, that's not from God. And so I just want to close with this last prayer and invite you to pray it with me, and that'd be this: Jesus, today help me to understand that hurt people hurt people. In doing so, protect my heart from other people's hurts and help me to see that they are loved by you and deserving of grace. And in the same breath, protect those around me who would become hurt by my pain. I ask that you continue to deal with my heart and break me in the areas that I have created a stronghold. Help me, Jesus, to be your hands and your feet. You can either win the argument or you can win the friendship. And James is trying to help us out here. He's saying, listen, we got to listen to people. And we got to be really careful of what we say. We got to make sure that anger doesn't drive the decisions that we make and the interactions that we have, but it has to be love and it has to be Jesus. Because here's the truth today, and I know somebody needs to hear this right now. You are going to be the only Jesus that somebody sees today. That's right, you are going to be the only Jesus that somebody sees today. And what kind of Jesus are they going to see? And how is that moment going to impact their life? Well, church, I just want to say thanks again for hanging out with us for the first 15. It means a lot that you're plugging in and that you're praying for others, you're praying for the church, and we just want you to know we're praying for you. And we are in this thing together, and we believe this is going to be a great week. We love you, and we cannot wait to see you next time.